Ansible and then ask Ansible to do a specific task, right? An automation task. Or the other direction is from Ansible, it called the third-party tools to do the specific job that only can be done by the third-party tools. So this is two way of doing integration. The first one, where the third-party tools is calling Ansible Tower, the method that is commonly being used is to leverage the API. So one of the benefit of having Ansible, especially the Ansible Tower piece, right? That Ansible Tower is providing the holistic APIs that can be addressed to leverage the automation by the third-party tools. So not only the job templates that is accessible through the API means that third-party tools can call the Ansible Tower API to call a specific job to be done, but also the open API from the Ansible Tower, including access to the inventories, creating schedules, creating workflow. So sky is the limit for what kind of integration that could be done from the third-party tool to leverage this Ansible Tower. On the second direction, right, where the Ansible Tower is calling the third-party tools to do a specific task or job, the way we do the integration is using the Ansible content collection. So as the name advertised in here, it's content collection. It's a collection of a content inside of the Ansible. So content means the internal object inside of the Ansible itself. It could be modules, playbook, plugins, even documentation inside of it. So it depends on what kind of object that you want to bundle it into a specific collection for a specific use case. So for example, here if we are talking about integration with ITSM, there is an already pre-built modules for integrating Ansible with ServiceNow. So instead, we need to know each and every way to call the ServiceNow API, the sequence to create ticket, for example, right, on the ServiceNow. Um, we can leverage the existing modules on the Ansible, and then it will simplify the whole automation to create a ticket. So that's one of the example how do we do the integration. Okay, that's quite enough about the definition of integration for this. Let's get into the use case. So first of all is the integration with monitoring tools. I think Zabbix is one of the most common monitoring tools being used widely in the enterprise, right? So what usually Zabbix do? So usually we preset couple of condition, and then if there is a specific unexpected event, then Zabbix will able to catch those events, to identify those events, and then there will be an additional action afterwards. So the common thing, the common action is to actually notify the system administrator, if either from emails or using Slack or other component. But actually from Zabbix, we can leverage the extra item after the event has been identified by putting in the Ansible Tower API to call a specific job templates for those specific event. So if we see in here on the workflow, when Zabbix catch those specific event, right, where it's definitely a pattern, it's an expected kind of event, right, with the specific remediation task that can be put in to solve the problems. So Zabbix will get those events. The action is it will call a specific job template inside of the Ansible Tower, and then Ansible Tower will execute the playbook for doing the remediation for that specific problems, right? And then we can also put at the end of the playbook, right, a task to update to Zabbix, right? To tell Zabbix that okay, the task has been successfully being done. And then that's how we can actually leverage an automation tool uh, to make a solution become a complete. Another example in here is using Dynatrace. So previously in Zabbix, the example is more infrastructure related, right? But now even we can try to blend in the automation into deployment, application deployment. So for example, this is the case where we try to roll out a new development branch or a new version of an application, right? Then Dynatrace is monitoring all of the parameters, including the resources. So for example, making sure that the new release would not have problem with resources, with CPU, with memories, or even making the problem in the thread, for example, right? So those kind of stuff, then we can try to follow up with each and every items that is usually becoming a problem, right? To follow it up with a specific job template. So for example, in here, if CPU is exhausted, then we can try as a first layer of doing remediation is add a new service instance, right? Then, for example, another example, if there is a high garbage collection, then we adjust or revert memory settings. So, but there, and then also the same treatment like in Zabbix, we can also put additional tasks later on to update a ticket. So, for example, in here is in Jira, right? Then, if the problem is still persists because it is a deployment, right? The most common sense to do is to revert back into the previous good condition of the application version, right? So initiate with the source code management to roll out the previous version. This activity can be initiated from the Ansible, right? And if the problem still persists, then there is something wrong definitely throughout the whole deployment, probably it related to infrastructures. So a more thorough discovery need to be done by the support team. Then, if that's still the case, we can try to leverage Ansible to create a ticket to ServiceNow, for example. So we already seen now from just an auto remediation using the monitoring tools. Now it become like a self-healing platform, right? If we want to step in the level a little bit from just monitoring tools and a simple task. Okay, another use case is integration typically with ITSM. So what we see in here is a typical ITSM workflow where we have a target environment and being fully monitored by a monitoring system. So if something is wrong, then it being detected by monitoring tools, either the monitoring tools will have the capability to create a ticket immediately to ServiceNow, or it will notify a system admin, and then the system admin create this ticket, right? Usually what happens is after the ticket has been released, then ServiceNow will assign the ticket into the level 1 support, right? Then level 1 support, usually what they do is they will see what is the problem itself, and then they will try to check on their existing runbook, right? Whether this behavior is already listed on the runbook. If there is something that is similar, then they will do the remediation on the runbook manually, right? Then it's solved. Another thing is if the problem itself is not listed on the runbook, then what happens is level 1 will contact it level 2 or level 3 to do a more thorough investigation about the problems. Then they will do the remediation onto the target system. So this is how a common ITSM ticketing system being implemented. So we see in here how that Ansible and automation platform could help to enhance the whole ITSM workflow experience, right? So instead of each and every time when there is a new ticket, ServiceNow is assigning into level 1 support. But if it is listed on the run book and it is expected behavior, right? Because it has already happened repeatedly, and then there is a pattern that we can recognize from there. Then based on that, we can create an automation inside of Ansible and then create a job template. So uh, the the remediation could be automated if it is simple enough, right? By doing this, definitely it will increase the resolution time, right? It will help to get a better resolution time because everything is automated, and then the workload itself for level 1 is going to be reduced definitely. Then level 1 could step up the level, and then they can more focus into a more complicated task. So together with level 2 and level 3, if there is a specific more complicated event, right? It's not impossible also, right, for level 1, level 2 and level 3 to leverage the current run book that is available on the Ansible tower, and then also to leverage those and to stitch it together, to orchestrate that together into a specific solution that can resolve the problems. We can say it's a simple way to enhance the existing ITSM workflow, but definitely we can do better. So this is one of the idea how we can try to uh, create a more efficient, more effective, more automated way of solving ticketing on the ITSM, right? We can put in here and introduce a new process automation layer, where inside of it there will be 3 different components: the orchestration, the management for automation, and also the uh, decision making mechanism. So the orchestration will focus on creating a workflow. So based on the day-to-day interaction, so if there is a more complex resolution, but it is expected and happen couple of times, then we can depends on those behavior, then we can create those workflow, and then how we put the logic if then else inside of it is using the decision manager, and at the end different kind of condition, definitely it will require a different automation as a result, right? And that's where the Ansible will set in and then put a different job templates there. So how Red Hat can help within this 3 component inside of the process automation layer. Definitely for the automation, we have the Ansible automation platform. Then to define the workflow itself, we have the process automation manager to create the logic of the workflow, and then to create the logic for the if then else, the condition itself, we have Red Hat decision manager. So it become a complete solution, one box to provide a more intelligent and more effective way to solve all of this ticket instead of just relying on manual tasks and processes. Okay, the last use case that we want to touch is the integration with other automation tools. I think Terraform, right? All of us is already quite aware that this is also the same, almost the same like Ansible. Both are automation platform, but definitely it has the more pros and cons, where Terraform is better in specific section compared to Ansible, right? So Terraform is more focused into providing a declarative kind of an automation, right? And the good thing with Terraform, it recognizes stages. So, for example, if we create a provisioning, right, from one stages into the other, then we want to do a rollback. We don't really require to create a new automation just to do the rollback, because it recognizes the stages, right? It is out of the box, then we can leverage those. That's one of the key advantage of using Terraform. And that's also why Terraform is widely being used to do provisioning and deployment. And it is really good on that part. And I think how Ansible could came into the picture and also help to make the solution complete, right? Terraform is not really actually built as a configuration management. So if you are talking about application, right, how we can try to maintain a specific application configuration, deploy the application, and then into a multiple target. That's where Terraform is doesn't really build for, and that's where Ansible could work together with with Terraform to provide a whole complete solution. So in here we can see one of the example of the workflow, right? How Terraform and Ansible could work together. And here, if we see the initial stages, Packer and also Ansible working together to create the proper image and then put it in artifact repo. When provisioning is need to be done, then Terraform will initiate the provisioning automation. At the same time, it will contact it fault if it is require a credential and also sensitive information. After the infrastructure have been provisioned, then Terraform will initiate call into the Ansible to continue the full deployment of the application. And also from the application point of view, right, there will also need sensitive information to be stored or credential. Then Ansible could work together with Vault. Okay, those are the 3 use cases that we try to explore today, right? As a closure, to increase the knowledge itself for Ansible automation, Red Hat provide track to make sure that the skill is properly upskilled, right? So system admin, Linux system admin could start with system admin Linux automation with Ansible. Then later on, if they really focus into the automation world, then they can leverage the additional training for the advanced automation Ansible best practices, and also followed with the certification for those training. Yeah, as a closure, there are a couple of links. So if you have more interest to know much better about the Ansible automation platform, so this is where you can start to get all of those, including the documentation. There are a couple of YouTube videos that provide the explanation, also demo for Ansible platform. So I think that's all I have for today. Thank you very much for your attention, and we can go into the Q&A session.
Thank you, Stefanos, for that insightful presentation.
Change happens, with or without our input. It can be imposed upon us, pushed at us, mandated. But we can take control and transform with intent. We can choose to embrace change, openly. To us, change is a state of being, not a box to check. It's the journey and the destination. It's a wider view, revealing better business outcomes. But the path is critical, because you can't change the whole without transforming the way. So it's time we leave impossible behind and open possibilities. Let's use open technology to work smarter. Let's open the process for efficiency and freedom. And let's build an open culture on empowerment and collaboration. Together, we can put digital transformation into practice. It can't happen in a vacuum, but an organization can transform using an open approach. With Red Hat, you can open your future. Open your technology. Open your process. Open your culture. Open possibility.
Business growth thrives on simplicity. But as you scale, IT infrastructure can become more complex and siloed. Red Hat Ansible Tower gives you control over the powerful Ansible automation you're using across teams in your entire enterprise. It ties multiple processes and actions into a single coherent workflow with a central point of automation control. Product lifecycles are clear, upgrade paths are manageable, and there's no need to add more equipment or staff. With Red Hat Ansible Tower, your existing teams can now manage complex multi-vendor environments, operating systems, servers, hybrid clouds, networks, security, and various infrastructure components, all through a single dashboard. From job scheduling to role-based access controls, you can gather the information necessary to better predict and optimize your entire system to help allocate resources and cut costs. By partnering with Red Hat experts, you're always operating on technology developed through collective and collaborative knowledge-sharing lessons learned over decades of open-source development. A subscription to Red Hat Ansible Tower brings value beyond automation. It gives you simplicity, security, and stability as you grow.